Hello traders, it's 8:04 a.m. Chicago time on February 11th, 2021. This is episode number 1936. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Thanks for piping in today. No camera today. I'm at home. You should be hearing me nice and clear. Let me know if you're not. Let's see. Let me know if you're not. Let's dive right into the summary sheet, the conversion trading pre-market summary sheet. We're looking at a market that is again allocating to risk after a pullback yesterday. Finally got some action on the sell side, but this morning the leaders, the DAX, up 97 points, trading at 14,015, up 0.7%, followed by the Euro stocks. The NASDAQ's up 65 points. Tesla was a huge drag yesterday on the indices. The Russell is up 9.7 points, trading at 2290.7 or 0.43%. The S&P's up 12.5 points, trading inside of yesterday's range, out of value in range. Silver's up, is hovering sideways at $27 and 13.5 cents. The bonds are up, which is interesting, and the 10 years are up, which is interesting. Gold is off just $0.3 and crude oil is the weakest today, but still it's only down 15 cents, trading at 58.53 on the March contract. So that's where we stand this morning. It just seems it's buy across the board except for crude, right? It's pretty all buy with both fists kind of thing. So the overnight session shows a drop on the open, but a steady climb up. The volume is pretty anemic in the S&Ps. Yet again, it did pick up yesterday. We had some pretty decent volume in the intraday session. In the RTH session, we have 1.34 million contracts. We usually expect about 1 million to 1.1 million. And lately, we've been trading around 800,000 to as little as 650,000. So we're back on this climb in the overnight session. Have only traded 134,000 or currently 136,000 contracts. The overnight inventory is long by about 19-20%, not much. 23.5 points of range, and multi-distribution profile. Really, it's a short covering profile. It's a P-shaped profile. Really, technically, it is a short covering profile so far. We have a week high at 39.1850 in the S&Ps, and that's all she wrote. Today, what do we have that is key? Again, I don't like to spend very much time on this. Initial claims came in, and you need to know that it came in a little bit. They came in a little bit higher than expected, which is more bearish. 793,000 versus 750. I want to remind you, a little over a year ago, initial claims were in the 190,000, 150,000. So these claims, these jobless claims, are still really incredibly high. And then there's nothing else on the calendar. Let's dive right into the review segment from yesterday. This is yesterday's video. Excuse me. This is yesterday's video. Of course, anybody and everybody has access to these videos live, streaming, or after the fact on my YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/ I believe it's /u/FuturesTrader71, and you'll find this. Yesterday, the primary scenario is a pullback and a push into the overnight high, and then pretty much consolidation into the session, into the rest of the session, into new all-time highs. I did point out that there's a big kind of gap area up here above the 24s. The secondary is a test higher to poke that overnight high, and then start working its way back down into towards the prior range at 39.12. Both of these were off. I did not expect the aggression we saw yesterday. Here's what we saw. We opened just below the high. We pushed a 1.5 up, and we immediately had sellers come in. We put in an opening swing low at 39.20 and a quarter, giving us an opening swing of about 6 points, which is pretty decent. And then from there, we're opening in a gap. This is the open versus the prior high. We're opening in a gap zone, and the expectation is it might pull back to the gap mid, which was right here in the 19 area, pulled to 1875, pushed back up to 23, where the mid was, and I was looking for a higher low for it to continue higher on that scenario one, and instead it exploded to the downside. We had this nice heavy rotation to the short side that took us across the prior day's range. This is the prior day's high, this dark green. This is the prior day's low on the also the dark green. So this is the prior day's range here, and what we did is we opened above, tested below, went across the entire range, and this was a very balanced, very choppy day. Went across the entire range, put in a weak low right here. You can see that double bottom. Put in a weak low, pushed through the 2900 century figure, and came back down to the IB, poked the IB, pulled back to 3900, and then we went to the naked point of control down here from 3880, which is an important high volume node. This 3880 is a stock zone for me, and it went right to it. And then from here, it pulled back, was really looking for a pullback to the IB, but what it did is it pulled back to this low that it put in after it broke the IB, and then put in a higher low, and then from there we got our first big rotation up, first big positive rotation. This is when I started to send out cautions in the head trader channel at Convergent Trading, saying caution shorts. This is an early warning. A nice little trip to the mid here for a pretty, this was a pretty sweet deal. A rotation that had about 10 points in it, held the IB, and then came back to the mid, and the expectation is this mid will likely break and it'll continue higher. It did slightly, but mostly chop in the afternoon. So we have a distribution at the high, a distribution in the middle, and this fuzz at the bottom. If you look at the, I'll show you this on the 30-minute, but there's a nice little excess tail on the 30-minute. We did end up leaving a single print at the 17 right here, which we have migrated to in the overnight session. We'll see how that's treated in the day session, but this is marked in the master levels for those who get them. Here's your single print right here. So we're looking forward to auction back up there and check that price out, which unfortunately it's kind of trading here right now. It's trading at currently trading at 1550 and has pushed 1850 in the overnight session. So we've basically come back as far as up here in the overnight session versus the prior day. So you could see that as soon as the market sells, we still have buyers coming in and picking up the pieces. So the entire session was spent below the open, and the delta was below the open as well. So we have delta and price moving in the same direction. Despite this push higher, the delta was not picking up. The aggressors were not picking up. Again, as it kind of stumbles its way to new all-time highs, we're seeing aggressors backing off, and that's to be expected. Aggressors can get into trades in many ways. I can sit on the bid. I can sit on the bid and have people hit my bid for 10,000, let's say, hit my bid, and that would record a negative delta because the aggressor's on the sell side, but I'm getting filled on an iceberg that has 10,000 in it, and as the market moves away, I'll move that iceberg up a few points, and then the market pulls back, hits it, we get a negative delta, and then I still have maybe 5,000 more to trade, and I keep pulling them up, and actually what I'm doing is opaquely getting long size, but getting a negative delta. So be careful how you interpret these negative deltas on the high. But what we're seeing, what we want to see, what we always want to see, something that's kind of that's important about the delta is what we would want to see is that aggressors are coming in and they're motivated to sell, and then price drops. Whenever those things don't go together, I take notice, and I'm bringing that to your attention. Okay, so that's what we have currently. Once we close, we have 138,000 contracts currently in the overnight session. In the current session, we've opened, we pulled back down, and then we have basically walked up. We've remained above VWAP, the full session VWAP, which is the cyan, and the full session mid, which is the blue. And we have basically walked, and then consolidated here. We still have a weak high. We have a weak high. We have a weak-ish low. We have a double bottom low here on the 30-minute. We have a double bottom high on the 30-minute. These are both, the profile's weak on both ends, but of course the trend is higher. Delta is not really participating. You can see the delta is practically zero. It was practically zero, and we're inside of the prior day's range. So this looks to me like today will likely be a resting day, will likely be a choppy day, and we are likely to continue to squeeze higher. What's important here? What's important is that we've held the 3,900 century figure. We fought this price pretty well. Pretty valiant fight there yesterday. We've moved the point of control lower. We put in a lower low, but we've also put in a higher high, and we are above the mid of this bearish, what would have been a bearish engulfing day, which didn't end up being a bearish engulfing day. It ended up being a day with an excess low and closing above the mid. So to me, this says that, one second. This says that the market almost went into a neutral stance yesterday, not a neutral day type, but a neutral stance in terms of trend, but overall ended up pushing back up above the 3,900, taking back the midpoint, and therefore it's showing some strength. It's leaning, the scale is moving to the long side, almost like this dial shows, you know, as we were lower, it was short, and then as we took out the mid, we went, it could go either way, and because we're above the mid, we're basically positive. I mean, this scale is not for that. I'm just using that for demonstration purposes. But this morning, look, it would not shock me that we would chop our way higher from here. Here's the excess that I'm talking about. We came up, just make sure you're rooted in the bigger picture. Make sure you're going back and looking at the bigger picture. It's really important. We opened at new all-time highs, sold off, pushed through the 3,900 here, where we have a nice belly that we formed over the last 2 days, and pushed through and went right to this high volume node up here, the 3880. We went to 78 and a quarter, 3880, and then we walked all the way back up, and we've pushed through the 3,900 and the mid, leaving a nice wick or an excess tail, an excess low below us. On the day time frame, this looks like an excess low. Just like on the day time frame, this looks like an excess high. This market opened, pushed through the prior high, and came in and closed within it, and then the next day we have it selling off. This is a day where the market opened, went negative, went positive and finished strong, and then the next day we have a higher low, right? And we have an excess low, a nice little wick, a nice long wick below the candle. Same thing here. This is finishing relatively strong. We're finishing in the body of yesterday's candle. We're finishing above the mid, above the 3900, above the 3880. This is still a bull, even though we've stopped the one-time framing up. In other words, we have paused this higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. That's called one-time framing up on the daily. Even though we've stopped it yesterday, it's really more of a pause, and this is likely to just continue. And I'm looking for a test of 39.24 today. It's hard to read these all-time highs because generally they're driven by the very, very, very long-term investor in here, the long time frame. And so their intent and their actions are not very obvious. But if you look at the bigger picture, that's what we can put together. Anyway, let's move on to what's expected for today. In case you haven't heard, I launched a brokerage called EdgeClear last year, and I definitely would love for everyone to support it. It's a futures independent broker, multiple clearing firms, and multiple platforms supported. You can check it out at EdgeClear. We have one of the lowest micro commissions in the industry, I believe. 22 cents a contract. Check it out. Go to edgeclear.com. Let them know that you heard about this from the Trader Bite. Again, I'm 100% owner and founder of this brokerage. I've got big plans for it, and those plans require your support to materialize. So here's what we've got going. Yes, it's available in Canada. Clear Canadian clears everybody except those people who, those countries that are on the prohibited list. So we can open Canadians for sure. Yes. So what do we have? We have a market that's been resting in a big 30-minute zipper right here. Just sideways. We've had this point of control right at the top of yesterday's closing swing high right here. This is likely to be a very choppy open. Expecting this to be back and forth. Again, we're opening in range, out of value. We're opening below the upper distribution in the singles from yesterday. Let me show you what those singles are. You might be thinking I'm talking about eHarmony or something. These are the single prints of yesterday, right here, from there to there, and we are trading at 39.15. We've really come a long way back. So this is where we are. We're in this kind of place where there's likely to be a lot of chop. So I'm looking for the market to be choppy here. We're opening on top of the overnight point of control, above the mid, above VWAP. The overnight volume is very low. The overnight inventory is just slightly long. So I'm looking for a small pullback. I'm looking for it to stay above, and then eventually I'm looking for that small impulse up back into 24, consolidate, and look to push that 28.50 high at some point. So I'm not expecting too much today. I'm not likely to comment too much today. And that's what I'm looking for on the first scenario. The second scenario, open auction, squeeze this 1850, get into the 24, put in a lower high, get an impulse, get a reaction, pull back to the full session VWAP, consolidate here, and work our way back into the point of control of yesterday before we rest. Another test of the 3900. So 3900 right here, the double O, the 95 being the projected low before it starts to bounce. That is the sellers coming back in today to see if there's any more selling interest, and likely finding some support. So those are the two key plays. Good luck, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Take care.